So you'd like some pendant lights to go over your, in this case, this would be a very tiny kitchen table. Maybe your kitchen table, maybe your dining room table. Maybe you would like a light that is supposed to look like the blown glass pendant lamps. Maybe that goes in your kitchen over, perhaps you have a little workspace in there. So the plastic ones here, the ones with plastic skins, I mean, are meant to look like the plastic pendants that you might find on on Amazon or at IKEA. And then this one is supposed to look like glass, like I said. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to deal with the plastic type first. And so I'm going to clear this stuff out of the way and we'll start. So here are some of the items you'll need. The plastic that I found was this notebook. It's from this notebook that they sell these at the dollar store. It's a set of three. So there are three different colors. The blue was a little bit, I'd say, too gray for my taste. So if you notice the samples, I used the pink and this is a little bit more of a fuchsia. So it is the same type of plastic actually that they use to make the real life plastic pendants. So that was kind of cool. So those just the dollar store, very easy. Okay, you got your X-Acto knife, you've got your metal ruler. I like these kinds of little flexible rulers. In the description, I'm actually going to show you how you can make your own really quickly on that. Buttons or a bead cap, like for jewelry making. These I'm going to show you, you may have all or only one of these. And it's a way of attaching the pendant to the ceiling. This is poster putty, a little bit of poster putty. The vinyl tubing, and this is in the description, and I use this for more than one project. So although you have to buy something like 10 feet of it, it's only like $4 for 10 feet, you'll use it a lot. Some sort of writing utensil that will easily come off. Pencil sometimes doesn't work so great. This is an erasable pen. Some sort of super glue. You've got a medium to small size paintbrush, and then your choice of colors for what you're going to paint, what color you're going to paint, the wires, okay, on the pendant. So I'm going to do this one for you first, and you notice I chose, and I would twist this ever so slightly, I chose white. So you could do silver, you could do black, you could do other colors, up to you. Okay, and that covers basically what you need. I always suggest you have some tweezers on you as well. All right, so we're going to get some of this out of the way so that we can get going, and I'll um, have some room to show you. So remember, I have that notebook from the dollar store. That's my source. And then I cut a little piece off of this. I did not pay too much attention to the length. I think that it may be 5 centimeters. Give yourself some extra. You're really going to need maybe 3 of those centimeters, not even. But just give yourself extra. It helps you to, if you mess up, you can cut the mess up from the end, if it's from the end. Now I'm checking here, I'm using my board to check to see if I have a nice square end. And that needs to be checked because this end and then where I cut here are going to be glued together with that super glue or similar product. So I'm a little off. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to hope this doesn't slide too much and trim that in a nice straight line. I'm just doing several passes because this stuff is so slippery. You would think with how messed up this board is that it wouldn't slide because there's so much glue and everything else on this. And you know what? I clean this up when I record these. This is a clean board. But you probably know what I'm talking about here. Okay, so now it's pretty square. And, this end was probably the machine cut. And so I did that. Now, what I'm going to do is I will be measuring down 1.1 centimeters. So 1 centimeter and 1 millimeter. Okay. Now, I am not going to mark that because I like using this little guy. It's so easy for me to just measure this way and just cut based on that. So that's my choice. In the description, I have a little pattern that you can use to make your own out of like a cardstock or paper. Now, my X-Acto, I don't feel real confident that it's super sharp. So I do want to try, I have, one or two extras. Haha. And I will pick one. These are off-brand. I got these at Temu. I'm not as pleased as I would like with these. But they send you a lot. I don't like to just keep throwing those away, especially since that makes it very hazardous. Your trash is hazardous. But nevertheless, I already purchased them, so I'm going to use them. Okay, like I said, 1.1 centimeters. Just going to measure down this way. My hand is probably in the way, but that's what I'm doing. Measuring this. And I want to be as careful as I can. Minor mistakes will not show. And there is a right and a wrong side, but I really want to try. My big mistake I keep making is not putting my blade right up against this and then see that slid a little and not getting a really nice cut. So I'm making several passes instead of cutting all at once, just like I did when I did the end. So, okay, that looks pretty good. I just suspect that's not perfect. No, it's not bad. All right, so the end that I made straight. Now is time to make these scores. And if you are new, then what I mean by a score is I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm making a little cut so that I can bend this material and without it falling apart, right? And I get my seams. Okay. And I can bend easily. We do this to paper. All right. If we want to put paper around a piece of wood, or maybe we're making a little tiny cereal box or what have you. Okay, now this is a little rough. What I want to do is I want you're going to kill me. I know you are. I really want about 4.5 millimeters. And that is really difficult. In fact, I have to pull this magnifying light up a little, which hopefully does not show on camera. It might, so bear with me. I won't use it the entire time. I want to get at least a good start. The reason for this is the tube. Yeah, I think that's about right. The tube is just not a perfect outside diameter. So I've found that 5 millimeters is just a little too much, and 4 millimeters is a little bit too little. Okay, so, I'm doing the best I can. It's really important to be just straight across. Okay, scoring, not cutting. And doing like one pass carefully. And then let's see how I did. See if I cut that straight at least. Ah, yeah, not bad. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it bent ever so slightly because it's gosh, 4.5 millimeters is just mean. If I'm off a little, I can probably get it to still work. In my sample, I got it to work. Okay, just keep going. We need 4 scores. Sound like Abraham Lincoln. 4 scores. And then another cut. Scoring carefully. Checking. Bending. All right, so far so good. 1, 2, 3. Double check my work here. Hold this down. Part of it is my need to bend it to see. You might be able to mark it and see just fine. I'm checking. Okay, so, all right. This last one is a cut. And then we're going to check and see if some further adjusting is necessary. But hopefully we're good to go. Keep that from sliding. Gotta go ahead and do several passes and cut that off. Alrighty. So I haven't cut this yet, but it doesn't matter. I want to see if this will fit around here. And it's tiny bit big. See, I'd like it flush, and there's a little bit on that end that's not quite right. But that is going to be okay. I would rather have a tiny bit big like this than too small, because trying to push this around and hold it till it dries is just miserable activity. So that's good enough. It's not going to show unless somebody is getting into your miniature house and spinning your lights around, in which case they need to be, not allowed in the room, in my opinion. I don't call house miniatures doll houses, because to me it sounds like, a kid is, or a person is allowed to play with the house. And I've got the little kid idea that, see with your eyes, not with your hands idea. I don't let any spinning of the lights happen and whatnot. So what I'm doing here is I want to get about a centimeter. Okay. This skin was 1.1, so that if I cut this, just, you're not perfect, it still covers it up. Okay, now this stuff, oh my gosh. So I will show you in the second part of this video, when I'm making the one that's supposed to look a little bit like blown glass. I'll show you how to deal with the fact that no matter what material I use, I'm sorry, what cutting utensil I use, these things are still not even. Now, it's like I said, it's not going to matter for this, because it should not, if I cut that properly, show. Yeah, I need it as close to the end as possible, because when we light these, shadows show. But yeah, okay, that's good. Now, as I said, this is a little bit big, so it makes this a little bit more difficult. I put this, perhaps I already said, I put this in the middle. I put this tubing in the middle so that the skin of a larger diameter um, light has something to hold it, and also something you'll see to hang it with, and it's going to be easier. Okay, a smaller diameter doesn't need the tubes. Okay. Oh, I need to put this one down and not let this roll away onto the carpet to never to be seen again. Now is the time to take my super glue. Um, this, this is like that actual super glue, and so it's more liquidy. Um, what I need to try to do is glue more from the. I'm gluing from the inside. Now that might not make sense. Let's get this started. That might not make sense, but what I want is to put glue on the edge, right? But when I glue this, like it's really hard to get that perfect. So see, it does leak over. I really preferably don't want that to leak onto the other side. It'll happen a little bit. But the thing about super glue is it clouds plastic and acrylic, and I think it even clouds my vinyl tubing a little. So this is a little big. So when I go to super glue this, I'm going to have to hold it together the whole time while it dries. Sticking, of course, to my finger. See, it's a little bit on the outside. It's not optimal. But you'll see that actually there are right and wrong sides to these, not only because of the seam, but because of the nature of these miniature LED lights. Okay, so we're doing pretty well. If that really bothered me, I could take a tiny sand there to it. Sander. So as soon as this dries, it's getting there. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast on that. I'm going to leave it all wonky like that on purpose for a second. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, you can tell what I'm going to do. I'll hold this together just in case I can show you. So I'll need to bend it back into a nice pentagon shape once that's dry. It's getting dry. Okay. And hopefully what happened, and I'll check to see if mine did. Yeah, it did. It's okay. I was going to say, hopefully what happened is a little bit of the inside glue got onto the tube to hold the tube in place because I made slight errors in my measurements. It didn't. But that's truly not a big deal because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll even use that seamed side. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue here. Push that in there and then hold the plastic skin against the vinyl. That adhered almost immediately. Adjusting a little as I go. Check at the bottom. Needs a little adjusting. A little pushing around to get my nice shape. Do that. Okay. All right. I messed up my measurements, but I pulled it out of the ditch. Huh. Nice. I have to give myself some props on that one. Wasn't sure if I could pull it off. All right. So now I have this and I need to light it. So I'm just going to take this out of the middle of this one and reuse this. I waited actually to paint. I chose to paint the wires white because the wires, um, I may have said in another video, the wires that I have found just are not white. They're either red and black or red and blue, and for this size. And I just haven't been able to find a nice color. What I'll do is slightly twist this just tiny bit so I can hold on to it better while I show you how to do the next thing. All right, now it's poster putty time. I'm going to mount this in here with poster putty. Just a little bit of poster putty. I got this on Temu so that I was sure to get white. They have other colors. So I could have gotten pink if I wanted to, but this won't show either. Because who's looking at this from the top? Approximately, I believe that's probably 3 centimeters from the light itself. It can be a little bit more because this is pretty long. So yeah, I want to get that near the end, but I don't want that to hang out, the light part. So I'm putting this in the middle of the poster putty. Now, here's where that tube is such a help. I'm going to use the poster putty and stick this to the sides. I need a tiny bit more. You just want enough. And this is on Temu, this was very inexpensive. At the dollar store, I think they only have blue, which might be fine with whatever color you're doing. I just wanted to be able to use this for various colors, so I just got the white. Might have come with another color, but I just wanted the white. Okay, you might be thinking, why? Why poster putty? Why not what I call hell's glue, which is hot glue? Which I call hell's glue because not just because it's hot, but because I burn myself with it darn near every time I use it. Um, and so therefore the name, the nickname. Another benefit of using the poster putty is it doesn't dry. It will firm up after you're done messing with it. It does firm up, but right now it's very malleable, right? So I want enough that it will hold that light in place. And then I want to look under here and I can look at this also when I light it. This is still connected to the battery pack. So see, I've got my light at the place I want. And if I had the lights off here, I don't really want to turn all of my lights off. I'll turn this one off. And the light here is down here. I don't want too much poster putty up here because it'll really darken this area. Now, the light anyway is down here, so this area is naturally going to be dark. You could try to do 2 lights, but I found, this is a bigger size. This is not the model train size. This is bigger, and I find that this is about as good as you can get. Now, I talked about a right and a wrong side to the light. So this was my seam that I would prefer to put in the back, although it glued fairly well. But these lights, and I can turn on my light, these lights, if I push this out a little, they have a side that's darker than a side where the lamp is. So wherever the front of my lamp is going to be, that's where I want the side of the light bulb side of the light. Okay. So I can adjust this, which is great about this putty. I can adjust the lamp, the light bulb, and when I go to hang this, I can adjust, see if I can hold this in a way. I can adjust how long this is, and I get a little easier because if I glue that in such a way that it's not in the center, then I can't really adjust this. So I go to bend this, and then what if this isn't in the center and it might hang weird? In fact, it will hang weird because it'll hang um, uneven. But here I can manipulate this, and I will, stop messing with it, let it um, become harder, and then I can hang it. Okay, so speaking of hanging, now I have this still connected as well as all those others. I have them connected to my little cap. So I'm going to undo that. If you don't know how to do lighting, I'm going to do a whole lighting post, a short one. So I want to go ahead, turn that off. You only get a little shock, but I don't want it to happen to you. I'm going to pull this out of here. Let me see which one. I'm going to pull my red, undo that a little more if I can. Pull my red out. If it takes too long, yeah, that's a hassle. So it's no big deal if I cut this. I can always use it for a shorter one because I want to show you options for hanging this. Okay, now I gave you different choices. You can hang it without it. You can use your hot glue at that point. If you get that perfect, you could hang that too on your ceiling if you feel really comfortable about that. You could use craft glue, tacky glue, I mean. Well, that might work. But I would like a decorative one just because I have it. I want it to be decorative. So I would put this in this side here. Put it all the way down to whatever height. And you know that you might not have a lot of ceiling. And see, I would have a nice cap. See, that would come out like that. That's one way to do it. You might have other beads that you could do that. Then my approach would be to then take more poster putty and place that, okay, and then mark it and then use whatever adhesive I can adjust with a poster putty. Okay, so say you don't have one of those. Maybe you have a nice collection of the buttons that they attach to clothes, the little bag of buttons. And I keep those. I kept them for who knows how many years. Okay. And I have a lot to choose from. Now, okay, if I'm going to hang just one pendant, then I'll put this side that has the ridge to the ceiling side. If I'm going to hang just one, they don't make buttons with just one hole, to my knowledge, because how in the world would that be a thing? Okay, I can run it through there. Now, let's say that I want to do two pendants, right? And I want to hang, at different heights. Then I can put two pendants. This is not totally matching, but if I put the two pendants through there, it will help me to adjust. If I want three, of course, I get a 3. These are a little bit rare, the 3 hold button, but that would help you to put your pendants exactly 3 even. So this one, did I do it to this one? No. This one, I also would want to glue with the ridge up. If I have a lot of wires, okay, that I need to run through this, it's going to be harder to glue, right? Well, okay, what I do is I just take my X-Acto, and I have to do it very carefully, and I'm going to make like a little notch, a little trough, even it out. I have to have a button that has a lid, and make a little place here where a bunch of wires, once I wire them, can go through that, and it's flush to the ceiling. Makes it a little easier. Okay, so that shows you how to do the plastic kind, and then I'm going to show you how to do that sort of hand-blown pendant look. Alrighty? Okay, so that leaves this little guy. And what I was trying to do here is replicate those pendant lights that you see frequently in restaurants. Some of you may have them in your home, and they are blown glass. And sometimes they look kind of swirly or cloudy to give, a real soft effect. Another thing I did, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the light. I did a little something different for the wires, and that is I twisted them up really tightly, and then I painted them silver this time, which you may or may not be able to tell. And I thought that kind of looks a little bit like a chain, or at least adds more interest to the wires than just painting them black or white or whatnot. So if you had the tubing, if you went ahead and purchased the tubing, then all I did here is paint the tubing. Just cut off a piece, however your length is. Now, something I have discovered is that no matter how I cut these, no matter how carefully I cut them, whether it's with scissors, whether it is with a utility knife, no matter what it is, and maybe you can see this if I put this down, it's uneven. It's just uneven. Maybe if I put this here, no, that doesn't help. But it's not a perfect slice on each end. So I have tried and tried and tried. And finally, I figured out this rather surprising thing, I thought. I'm easily, entertained. So I thought this was surprising. And I sanded it. So I just used the coarse side, and I just kind of sanded this to where I felt like it was pretty straight around. And then I kind of used my fingernails to pull off any little pieces. I could clean it up with a knife if I wanted to, if it gets really, but I can always go on this side and clean that up. And it also, it takes a little time to do this, but it does also give kind of a nice rounded edge if you're going to make this one that's supposed to look like blown glass. So basically the deal is it takes a little time, so I'm not going to tape doing this perfectly. I will probably, it's going to take a little time because I really made a bad cut on this one. I didn't even try, I think. Okay, so I want to show you though how I got that finish, that sort of blown glass finish. So I took my tweezers and I put this on in the middle of them. Now I chose it to paint I'm about to paint. I chose to paint on the outside. I suppose you could paint on the inside and then you wouldn't have to do the second step that I'm going to talk about. But I like to do the 2 steps. I'm going to show you. So I just took acrylic paint, plain old acrylic paint. I watered it down a little bit in a minute, but I'm going to show you something. When you put it on the first time, it might start to come away from the surface. I hope that hopefully you can kind of see how it's sort of bubbling. It doesn't seem to be adhering at all, but that goes away. The more you just sort of take your paintbrush and go around, it starts to stick. So I just kept going around until I was pretty happy with it. And I had to thin mine out when I did this the first time. But now I think my brush was wet, and so I'm not having to thin this out as much. I actually want to leave some marks. You know, normally you'd want to try to get rid of brush marks. But in this case, I want it to look like hand-blown glass. And if I were really a fancy pants, I could probably do like a swirly pattern with a very small paintbrush. Okay, so I did that, and then I went ahead and this is not entirely dry, so I don't know how well this is going to work without doing further editing. But once this was dry, what I did was take some gel nail polish. And I would suggest buying some cheap gel nail polish. I'll put some in the, I'll put where I got this. I think I got this on Amazon. I'll put that in the description. I do find that there are cheap nail polishes and then there are really cheap nail polishes. Now, I bought some gel nail polish on Temu and I was not happy with it. There does seem to be a difference in quality of the, essentially this is resin. And so I was disappointed with some I bought on Temu. So anyway, hopefully this is dry enough. Now, so if you get yourself some gel nail polish, one of the great things about it is it will give you a nice shiny coat, and it's less likely to give you brush marks in let me concentrate here, in other circumstances. So in other words, I just want to clarify, I put brush marks. I wanted the brush marks for this, but when I use the gel nail polish, I use that for different projects, and sometimes you want a nice glossy finish. So you get some cheap nail polish, then what you do is you get a cheap one of these, and I probably don't want that light to be shining into the camera, but it's just a LED nail lamp, UV LED, and these are not expensive. This is bigger than you would even need for these projects. I use this for 3D resin 3D printing, so I wanted a little bit larger one, but you don't have to buy. I'll put in the description. In fact, I'll write myself a note to put in a smaller one. So I usually like to leave this in for 99 seconds or at least a minute, because I put a pretty thick coat. But what you'll notice here is it's nice and shiny. It's really nice and shiny, and on my original one, it even gave it kind of a rounded edge. So it just, I really like using that sometimes. I was making, oh gosh, I think it was a sink, and I had 3D printed it, but I didn't like the way that the finish was, and so I just put a layer of gel nail polish on it. It looked great, looked fantastic. So I think that is kind of a fun thing to do. That tubing can be just wonderful for lighting. You can use it to make it kind of seem like a recessed lighting. You can just glue this directly to the ceiling, and it's not really a can lighting, but you can make it look, you know, you can take it directionally and like really highlight a little picture on your wall. It has a lot of uses. In fact, I'll show you another project that you can use this tubing. Anyway, there's all kinds of choices of pendant lights for you. Kind of quick, kind of easy. And I hope you enjoyed this, and please subscribe.